Alright guys, so in the last video we talked about how to check your oil using the oil dipstick. Today we're going to talk about how to add oil. So if you go to check your oil and it is low, you'll need to do this. The other thing is these are the first between checking the dipstick and adding oil is the two major steps that go along with how to change your oil, minus how to actually drain it, which we'll do in another video. So knowing how to fill your oil is going to be really similar also to filling other fluids in your car, such as power steering fluid, brake fluid, coolant, so on and so forth. So this sets a pretty good groundwork for that. You're going to need a couple different things along with it to be able to add some oil to your car. Number one thing I would say is always a clean, somewhat clean rag that you can use to check your dipstick and also in case you spill any oil anywhere. I always like to have a funnel as well. It is possible to pour the oil into an oil fill area without a funnel, but I like to keep the underside of a hood clean, so it's good to have a funnel. In a shop like ours or here at home, because all cars and engine bays are a little bit different, I have a couple of different style funnels, but you can sort of pick which one works best for your car if you're ever going to buy one, and they're really only a few dollars and they last a long time. So there's styles like this that's kind of short, has a wide spout. This one works pretty well. This is pretty little. This is one that I actually keep in my truck. A lot of cars we use this big long one when the oil fill area is down deeper inside the engine compartment, and then I even have this extra little one that kind of folds up and you can keep in a car too. And again, these just help kind of keep you from spilling oil. So a rag and a funnel is good. So when you go to choose oil, we're going to spend a whole video on just this, but the only thing I would like you to take a look at for now is the fact that oil can come in either smaller 1-quart containers or 5-quart containers. If you're changing your oil entirely, you're going to drain out the old stuff, fill it up with new, you'll probably get one of these big 5-quart containers. If you're just a little bit low, you might stick with one of these 1-quarts. Each one of these is going to tell you a whole lot of stuff, but the most important thing that we're concerned right now with is this engine oil weight. So this SAE 30 is an example of something you'd put in like a lawnmower, and here you can see this 0W20, which is going to be suitable for both the Honda and the Jeep, the two cars that I showed you. It said that on the oil filler cap. So if I have this oil as an example, I will show you how to fill it up. Now, earlier we talked about where to locate the dipstick, and in this case the dipstick is here, and that is not where you add the oil. You add the oil in the filler cap, the oil filler cap, and you can pretty much on any newer car you can look at that, and you can see here it says engine oil, has a little symbol of an oil, and one of the really important things is that number that's on there, SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, 0W20, which stands for 0 Winter 20, and that is the weight of the oil, basically how thick it is or the viscosity. A thicker, heavier oil like a 30 or 40 is going to be thicker, closer to honey or syrup. A lower number like 0 or 10 or 20 is going to be lighter, closer to vegetable oil, olive oil, or closer to water. So this is where we go to add the oil. When you go to remove this, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky unless you've done it in a little while. So you might, want to put a rag on there. And when you take this cap off, you are exposing the inside of the engine. So it's really important that you keep all this stuff clean. If you go to, you have an old truck or Jeep and you go to look at this engine oil area and it's full of leaves and dirt and grime, you're going to want to clean all that stuff out of there with the rag or with a vacuum before you go to add the actual oil or pull the cap off. But once you have this area nice and clean, you can take that cap out. It should twist. I like to sort of put it right next to it, not face down. We do not want dirt, grime, grease, or anything, grime inside of an engine because it can actually destroy it, especially things like sand. So while you're doing this, make sure that it's not, that the area around you is pretty clean, because once you do that, that's actually inside the engine there. So we take that off, and we can go ahead and find a good funnel that matches inside there until it sort of stays. This is where, again, you want to pick your funnel, because if yet use the wrong funnel, it can be a little bit tricky. One like this is nice, but it doesn't really need to stick all the way up there. So we'll put that aside. We'll take this one, put it in here. Make sure the inside air funnel is decently clean as well. Again, the filler area is big, so you could technically pour it in. But one thing I like to be careful when you're pouring oil in, you want to make sure that you don't spill it. If you spill it in different areas, what can happen is it can get down to the exhaust or some of these other metal parts. And then when the exhaust gets hot, it smokes and you think your car is on fire, but it's really just that you spilled some oil in the wrong place. It can also get down into the belts and electronics and other areas. So you really want to try to avoid spilling the oil. So I like to use a funnel like this, and I'll put that in there. Let me show you on another car. Now on this truck, you can see that once again, it says oil, engine oil. And in this case, it says SAE5W30. Whatever oil it is that you're going to add into there, you must make sure that it says exactly what it says on that filler cap. It should also be in your owner's manual. So if this says on the filler cap 5W30, you can only add 5W30 oil. Doesn't matter if it's conventional or synthetic, has to match those numbers. We'll talk about different types of oil on the next video. This video is more just about how to actually fill it up. But make sure that you know that if you're adding oil, that it is matching that. Now in this particular case, same thing again. It's I can take this cap off. That one gets a little bit stuck. I'll put it in a safe location. And in this case, I might use this smaller funnel that's over there. Now in this car, it's kind of frustrating because you're looking around and usually you like to see the oil filler cap somewhere on the top. And usually the oil filler cap sits up pretty high in the engine because you fill the oil in the top of the engine, it drips its way all the way down to the bottom. Unfortunately, they put this one in not such an easy place to reach. You can see it's kind of tucked way down in there. If I zoom out, you have to kind of bring your hand in here. And again, if you can't find this, check your owner's manual for it as well. So this, I'm reaching down pretty far to get access to this one. And when I do get down there and unscrew it, once again, I can kind of sit it up here. This is a great example for one of these long funnels. Since it's all the way down there, I can kind of extend this, and let me show you a little bit of a different view there from the side. I can extend this, and then you can see that I have access to pour it and fill it up nice and easy from the top. So if I go to fill some oil, I want to get my oil, I want to make sure that I have the right amount. I will have the cap, I'll have my rag, I'll have my funnel, everything in the area will be clean, and once again, I will add little bits at a time. Usually it is best to hold the funnel with one hand and stabilize it. Don't try and dump all of this in the funnel at one time, because at some point you can overpower the funnel and it can come out all over the bottom and leak. So you should always be looking at inside the funnel and around the bottom to see that no oil is coming up and out of there. When you want to start pouring the oil in, as I mentioned to you, have your rag handy. Some people even like to, and I do this a lot in the shop, kind of put the rag right near in case anything spills, and that way then you can kind of go in and start pouring some oil from the top. Okay, I don't need to add much oil to this, so I'm kind of just showing you as an example, but I'll pour a little bit in. I'll probably usually pour more than that. And there's an indicator on the side of this bottle here. Now you can notice that when it is full, it'll be all the way up to here. If I wanted to put about a half a quart or half of this in, I'm gonna watch really closely. I might even take a flashlight and look on here and see where this is. And as this goes down, I can look to see that as the level goes down, I can see it'll be at about a quarter, half, only a quarter left, and all the way to the bottom. So if I'm trying to figure out how much is left in here, it's tough to tell without looking at that clear indicator mark. And as I mentioned to you, just make sure it's nice and clean. You have some good light, maybe a flashlight, and then you'll be able to see. So that way, if you do go to pour some oil in, you can pour a little bit of oil in, and then you can take a look at it, see how much went down. You can pour some more in. But what you really want to do, what's important when you're actually checking this oil, is you're pouring the oil into the top of the engine. You need to leave time for it to work its way all the way through these little crevices, all the way to the bottom of the engine in the sump, before you can check the oil again. So don't pour oil in and immediately check the dipstick. Pour oil in, wait about 30 seconds to a minute, then check the dipstick again. If you need to add more oil, go ahead and add it, wait again. Don't rush it. Take your time with this. In the shop, when we do this, when we're changing oil, we do this very slow and methodically. We're on a nice level surface. We add a little bit, we check it, we add a little bit, we check it. If we are changing all of the oil, we're always going to want to look in the owner's manual, and we're going to want to see what the capacity of the oil is. We'll talk about that in more detail later, but usually it will tell you something like 4.5 quarts or 5 quarts of oil. And at that point, we can pretty much pour just about all of that in. However, still, if it says it takes 5 quarts of oil, we're going to pour about 4.5 quarts in, and then we're going to start slowly checking the dipstick as it gets near the top to make sure that it's done. Now, if you really want to check after a full oil change, if you want to get a perfect reading, you'll actually put about 4.5 or most of the quarts of oil that you need in there. And then you will take the funnel out. You will put the cap back on. Before you take this funnel away, I always like to take this rag, cup it underneath there, and bring it away from it. We don't want to drip oil. Sometimes this is still dripping oil. We don't want to drip it on the paint or the rest of the engine, especially the exhaust, and make it smoke. So have that rag ready to go underneath the funnel. Have a good place to put it. Put the cap back on, make sure the dipstick is in, make sure that it has most of the oil in. You can run the car for, about a minute or 2 minutes. Then you can turn it off, let it sit for a couple minutes, 5 minutes, and then you can check it again, and that'll give you a really accurate reading. But again, if the car is just a little bit low, you notice it's a 1/2 quart low, go ahead, add your 1/2 quart in, check the dipstick again. Try not to overfill it. If it overfills a tiny bit, not the end of the world. If it fills a lot, then you got to start thinking about ways to get some of that back out of there. But when you're all done, make sure you're all cleaned up. I like to kind of wipe the area down, make sure that filler cap is on there tight, that dipstick is all the way in there. Make sure you're nice and cleaned up and haven't spilled any oil anywhere else, and you are all set. In the next video, we're going to talk about what the different types of oil are and choosing one of the oils, and that will eventually lead us to changing oil and getting underneath the car and draining it. So maybe you want to give this a try. It's up to you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for watching.